So, hi, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I am here with the fantastic Jana Long, and I have so many questions for you about your work, which is fascinating. But I really want to start by, I know you've had this 40-year love affair with yoga. And it's been an evolution, and it actually evolutioned into a sangha that you created that was, in my opinion, a much needed sangha of Black yoga teachers. And that kind of resulted in the Black Yoga Teachers Alliance. So how I'd like to start, Jana, is can you just tell us about yourself? Tell us your story. And how did this, because it's growing, as I understand, by leaps and bounds, this organization. So just give us the Jana Long, the short version.
The short version.
Can you do 40 version? 40? Can you do 40 years in like 4 minutes?
Actually, next year will be 50 years. I'll celebrate my 50th year sense and awareness of yoga. So I'm really proud of that. It has been something that has sustained me. Now I can say for most of my life. So it's a badge of honor, and I hope I've gained some wisdom as I come into my senior years, or I should say, I'm already there. I'm already in the senior years, and I do feel that what I have to share comes out of a wisdom of a lived experience, and I'm proud of that. Where to begin is actually my journey began with astrology when I was about 16 and learned what my sun sign was, and someone gave me a t-shirt with my sun sign on it, and I used to wear that proudly, but it led me to want to explore more about astrology. As I got a little older, went into college, yoga intersects with astrology in a weird sort of way. I like to say that yoga was doing me before I was doing it. And what I mean by that, and maybe a lot of people out there will remember this, back in the day when we actually had to take physical education classes and you had your little uniform and blah, blah, blah. There was an exercise that we did called the bicycle, where you're on your back, you'd hoist your legs up and you pump them up and down. I loved that move, and I did it all the time at home, but I stopped the leg pumping. I would just extend my legs up and then bring them down overhead and bring my feet to the floor. One day, I'm looking at TV. This is when you had to get up and go change the TV channel, right? No remote controls, and I'm flipping through the dials. And I come upon a public television show called Lilius Yoga. And there Lilius was coming up into shoulder stand, Sharvangasana. And I was like, oh my God, there's that thing I like to do. And I began to tune into that program, and that became my exposure to Hatha yoga, the physical approach to yoga. Well, one thing always leads to another. And it's a funny thing because right now in one of my yoga classes, I'm sharing information about the chakras. And one of the chakras that we discussed today was Swadhisthana, the second chakra. I pulled out a book. It's still here. I'll just hold it up. It's called Sexual Energy and Yoga. This book happened to be on my mother's bookshelf. So it's this confluence of yoga, and then I've got to add this, at the same time that Sexual Energy and Yoga was out, there was also a best-selling book that came out called The Joy of Sex. It was a big controversial book because it had these illustrated drawings of people in various sexual encounters, sexual poses. And my mom had that book too, and they were like kind of close to each other on the bookshelf. So I flipped through The Joy of Sex, and it was pretty compelling to say the least. But then my eye caught sexual energy in yoga, and I began to read that. And it put a context. It was something in that book that grabbed me that has stayed with me until this day. And it was that our sexual energy is the ability for that engagement of sexual energy brings spirit into matter.
Mm.
And that intrigued me, and I had to grapple for years and years and years, what does that really mean, to bring spirit into matter, to transform spirit to matter? And that led me to wanting to know more about yoga.
Wow.
And I began to collect books. I was an ardent, well, I love books. I'm a bibliophile. I've got tons of books, but I started looking for books on astrology and yoga philosophy. The first book that I bought on yoga philosophy, or a philosophical approach of yoga, was by J. Krishnamurti. The First and Last Freedom is the title of the book. Now I'm about 19, 20 years old at this time.
Mm.
And I think the opening chapter of the book by J. Krishnamurti is, what is the self? I'll tell
Mhm.
you, to this day, I still I'm still trying to figure that out. I still pick that up. So what that showed me, we have words, and there's a way of understanding words. But then when you take those words and you want to understand, well, what does that mean in the context of who I am and who I am, how I am experiencing this human life, all of what is dwelling within me. I'm trying to understand these things. And these books and this practice of yoga brought me into an experience of myself
Mhm.
that has helped me to do the only thing that we can do, know ourselves. So, and I
It's a
don't
beautiful
try.
story. I mean, one thing that I totally, truly love about you, Jana, is you're such a storyteller. You really are. You're just an amazing storyteller. Do a really quick and dirty, just tell us about the Black Yoga Teachers Line, because I really want to go back and
Okay.
unpack some of what you
Yeah.
just said.
Well, enough about me. So let's fast forward now. Yoga practice through the years. I'm a householder. Been married. I have children. All yoga through that. As I decided to become a yoga teacher, so I practiced yoga for more than 30 years before I even thought about teaching or calling myself. And I don't even know if I like the word teacher. I share, right? I share what I know. Any rate, I went to a conference in 2002. In 1997, I met the first Black yoga teacher I'd ever encountered. And it's not like I had encountered a lot of yoga teachers before then, because it wasn't like it is now, yoga studios on every corner and all of that. But in my experience of yoga, I had never really encountered another Black person. And in Washington, D.C., and at the time I lived in Washington, D.C., it was called Chocolate City. So never before, but we connected. He told me about an organization called the International Association of Black Yoga Teachers. He had gone to a conference that they gave, and he came back, to our yoga class. He was fired up, and he was like, Jana, you've got to go next year. It's amazing. He was also this person who encouraged me to consider becoming a yoga teacher. And as we were getting closer to the 2000s and computer life was coming, desktop computers at work, Where I worked, they began to lay off people. Well, anyway, I went to the IABYT. That was the International Association of Black Yoga Teachers. There were about 45 of us there. It seemed like, oh my God, all these Black people teaching, and
45
there
out of how
45.
many?
Oh my
How
goodness,
many?
right? But I met another yoga teacher there by the name of Maya Breuer, and she and I met under some surreptitious circumstances, sneaking coffee at the yoga retreat when we were supposed to be all zenned out and cool and, vegetarian and no sugar and all that. But we started talking. We decided to collaborate to do a conference for IABYT. And as a result, she and I connected as partners, developing yoga retreats. As the IABYT began to dissipate, their activities began to dissipate, we thought, it might be a good idea to start another Black Yoga Teachers Alliance. Well, by then, Facebook was relatively new. I opened up a group that said, if you think there's a need for Black yoga teachers to have a place to connect, join this group. There were 28 people in that group for about a year. Then it went up to 60. Now we're over 5,000 in
Wow.
the Facebook group. Then we decided, well, maybe we should start an organization because it appeared the precursor organization was over. So we did in 2016. And it was an amazing thing. We connected with the Kripalu Center of Yoga and Health and hosted the inaugural conference there. All of the 45 yoga teachers, many of them came to this conference and then some, because by 2016, yoga is starting to move more into Black communities and among Black people. And it just seemed like the time was right. So we incorporated BYTA. That's the acronym for Black Yoga Teachers.
BYTA.
BYTA.
And the website is BYTA.
It's Black Yoga Teachers Alliance.org. You got to spell all that out. Black Yoga Teachers Alliance.org. And since that first conference, this organization, I think the time was just right for it because the growth has been steady. And this year, we can't believe it, we celebrate our 5th year of as a nonprofit. Maya left us in 2018 to join another organization. And since then, we've put our board in place with Dr. Gail Parker as the chair of, as the board
Awesome.
president. It's an amazing group of minds and yogis who are stewarding Black Yoga Teachers Alliance. And so we sort of see this 5th year, in yoga, 5 is a sacred number. This is our pancha year. And we have to do an online conference, which is a bit nerve-wracking, but I think it's going to look like something you've never seen before online as far as conferences go. So and that's August 20th through the 22nd that the conference.
Yeah, what I love about that is, yoga is about connection, and people might say, well, why are you? But it is so important as you develop your voice to hear similar voices coming from shared experiences, from shared places where you can together go into and find your way into the larger saga. So I am so applauding, I'm so in awe of what you've done, and I wish you all luck with that. Now back to some of this. You were talking about soul and spirit and all that. And I know that one of the really big things that you work with is Tatwas, and the energies, the earth energies, or I don't even know if you can call them because of ether, but the elements. Can you talk about Tatwas and how that intersects with all this. So you've already gone into Vedic astrology, you've already gone into yoga. Your work has such a spiritual and such a philosophical grounding to it. Can you take us through the Tatwas and why they're important?
So I think this one, understanding the tatwas, the elements, that came through the yoga teacher training. Initially, I did that in integrative yoga therapy. And there was a large component of Ayurveda, the sister science of yoga, in that training. But that Ayurvedic exposure to Ayurveda actually for me was an ancestral calling because, like many African Americans in this country, or I like to say, uh, Americans of African descent that are here, we're here because our ancestors were brought here, and they were brought here primarily as an educated workforce to work the land, to provide the agricultural economics that grew this country. I grew up with a grandmother who was from the South and gardened and stayed very closely connected to the earth. So that was in my spirit and in my blood. So then when I learned about Ayurveda, and this idea of the tatwas. The tatwas are just the universal elements of air, fire, water, earth, and the ether or the space that we occupy, or of that which all of that is contained, put it that way. And there was an important practice, and I still recommend people do this, where it's, in yoga, there's the illusion of Maya, this Maya that you're disconnected, that you are a separate entity as opposed to you are an integral part of everything. And I was able to connect with that experience through my relationship to the earth. And when I say that, I'm not talking woo woo. I mean, like it feels different to walk on the earth with bare feet. It feels
Literally grounding.
literally, and you feel that magnetism of that earth coming into you. It's an experience to watch and get to understand the language of plants. It's an experience. Go outside every day, no matter what the weather, and notice the most subtle changes in the air and how they feel. And then through astrology, okay, here's the big aha, through astrology, which also is rooted in the tatwas, the signs. Each one, you're an air sign, you're an earth sign, you're a water sign, a fire sign. That gave me, I said, could that possibly be a key to understanding my own true nature? But but it takes a lot of contemplation because, say, for example, fire can manifest. I am a fire sign, so I like to pick on that one. Fire manifests in so many different ways. But I do believe that our astrological chart, which shows us the map of where this universe that we are a part of, where those outer bodies were, the planets, at the time we were born. And then I must add this because there was an astrologer who I followed very closely. Her name was Marcia Moore. She wrote a book called Astrology, the Divine Science. And she wrote another book called Yoga, Science of Life. And through her work in astrology, I was able to make that connection and understand my own nature through my astrological or horoscope, let's put it that way, through my horoscope, not for predicting whether I'm going to have some money or I'm going to get a husband, not that, or not in a predictive way, but to understand the elements that are within me. So here's that practice, doubling back. I learned this practice in one of my yoga teacher trainings, that when you are out in nature, to just say to yourself as you look upon the tree, as you walk upon the earth, as you feel the breeze, to just say, I am that. I am that. That will remind you that all of those elements that you may think are outside of you actually move within you as well. The tree could look at you and say, I am that. And you know, we do have a reciprocity. Our relationship with trees is reciprocal.
Mhm.
We exhale carbon dioxide that they need. We inhale the oxygen that they expel. We are that. We are in a symbiotic relationship with everything in nature. And this is why this workshop and this understanding is important at this time, because of where we are on the planet, what we have done to bring imbalance to the planet. And maybe if we begin to recognize that we are the planet, it is us, and we are it, that we will begin to have more respect for how we interact with it. And you know,
So
there are many cultures that still do that, you know, but we've sort of lost our way. And I think this is a way of of bringing an understanding to you as an individual,
mhm.
what you as the person, the individual, can begin to do, not waiting for someone else to take care of it for you. And it's small things, but small things add up to big changes.
So these elements are, they're physical, they're definitely, this is not all esoteric, but there is an esoteric piece to it because we all have within us those elements. So for example, in common parlance, is someone who's called an airhead or a space cadet or uh, you know, deadwood, are those people manifesting the energies of those elements? And can we, in our practice, kind of weave all these concepts together and move our own energy toward that unity that you're talking about, that kind of communing with being that?
So, you know, remember there is yin and yang, there's dark and light, there's positive and negative, and that's in yoga, in nature, in Ayurveda, and all of that. So, you know, if you're wanting a rose garden, you can forget about it. It doesn't mean that there isn't pain and pleasure or any of that. It's just being able to manage those energies as they arise within us. So we have all kinds of language. We language these things commonly without really giving a lot of deep thought about, say, for example, when you call someone an airhead.
Mhm.
So, what that essentially means is that that's someone who has a lot of mental movement, a lot of thoughts and moving, and maybe they can't keep up, or maybe the mind is moving so fast. This is where the Ayurvedic piece comes in when you look at the
The
doshas,
doshas.
the innate constitutions, just similar. It's very similar to how we study in Western biology about endomorphs, mesomorphs, ectomorphs. It's sort of like this is your innate constitution. You know, I'm 5'2". I'm never gonna be 5'9". That was stamped on me at birth that when the growth hormones kick in, they're going to dissipate at a certain point and I will be left at this height. There's nothing I can do about that. So your dosha, which hopefully your keys to astrology can help you get a deeper understanding of that dosha. So I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, well, let me ask you another question then, because I want to take this back to practice.
Yeah.
As you're, I'm thinking as you're talking that these are all data points that I could use to understand myself, and that I could use a grounding, or I could go take a spa and go take a steam and release some water into the air and all of those kinds of things. Is that where you are going with your work, that you're weaving this knowledge of all these other data points into the human experience, and that becomes the practice that really becomes intertwined with your physical practice and the other things you're doing in yoga?
This is all about what the practice of yoga essentially is: your own self-realization. It's not for, it's just something you to know, for you to know, because one of the most, if not the most difficult thing on this earth to know is one's own self. Is one, and so these are tools, not necessary that, there's nothing to do with them, it's to be with them, to accept them. Now I'll just say this, as a fire sign and with the rest of my chart, and as I said, this has been a long time contemplation. What does that really mean if I say I'm a fire sign, I've got this earth element, I've got this water, and I understand this through a practice of astrology and Ayurveda? And I came up with this, that how my fire nature shows up is that essentially I'm an ember. Because just, I mean, fire is acid, fire is lightning, fire comes in so many forms. So you have to really look at your own nature. You also have to listen to what other people tell you about yourself. One of the things that I've often been told about myself, well, how other people perceive me, right? They think I'm really cool and calm, and, I don't seem to get outwardly excited a lot. And that used to always surprise me, because inside I felt like I was just jumping out of my skin. But somehow, and I thought, how is that fire? Because you think of fire as bright and burning, and but the ember appears to be out. But if you blow on it, it may glow. You have to,
Oh, what awesomeness.
if you agitate, if you blow on it,
Awesomeness.
it'll burst into flames, right?
Oh my goodness.
And that's my nature. I'm generally pretty calm, cool, typical Leo person. I like to lay around and lounge. But if I'm stimulated, the fire begins to glow. And if
I
I
love, oh, I'm sorry. I love that you've got a different lens to view yourself, and it's not good, it's not bad, it's not you screwed this up, you did okay over there, you're getting a B+ over here. It's that, isn't that interesting? I'm like an ember, so now I can nurture my ember self.
I can
And
nurture that.
so,
And I can be careful, because I know that if I am agitated, I can go from 0 to 120 in about 2 seconds. And that's not good for everybody that's around me. So that's something that I know I need to manage, that if I want to have friends and relationships with
yes, of
people.
course.
So but it took time for me to understand that nature, and it's of my own creation, it's of my own sight, because I live within my own spirit and dwelling. So I said that's how I see myself in relationship to fire, that I'm a cool ember, but a little, I can glow, I can burst into flames, I can set something on fire. That's
And
so.
now you have brought all of this all of this richness, all of this, what I call juiciness, all of this stories, all of these rituals, all of this into your teaching. And here's where I'm super excited. You are going to do a 2-part workshop with us next weekend, and I can't wait. So it's going to be, so let's tell people about that. It's going to be 2 sessions, Saturday and Sunday, and interactive, correct?
That's right. So
now, is this stuff that we just were talking about, is that in the workshop?
This is in the workshop. It's let's look at this as, this workshop is an exploration. It's a beginning to connect the dots, to help people connect the dots. And listen, this is work that you have to do for yourself. I am only there to offer some pathways of understanding how they've come to me, and hopefully we can talk about that. We can share. I hope people will ask plenty of questions, and I will be sharing some basics about astrology just from the elemental standpoint. So this workshop is for people who are curious about this, would like to know how to connect these dots, how to begin to find those answers, or that self-understanding. We'll work with astrology. Then we'll look at those same elements through Ayurveda and understanding the doshas. Again, and that puts us in relationship with the earth. That's how we come into relationship with the earth and the universe and all that's around us, understanding how we are that and that is us. And then the yoga part, if we have, well, yoga just has yoga is like a huge onion with so many layers and textures to it. But that aspect of meditation, now we can sit with ourselves. We can sit in our element, in our understanding, to contemplate. Like I said, it took me a long time to come up with being a fire sign. What did that really mean for me? What did that mean to me? And I hope that I will be able to help guide some people. You know, you've got to find, as someone said, everything that we need to know is, we already know it. It's in us. Hopefully this workshop will provide some keys to begin to unlock that for deeper understanding. Why? Because it helps us to manage our inner world, our psycho-emotional world, and our physical well-being as well. So I'm excited about it. I've tested this workshop many times. It's a lot of fun. And it's something.
As I understand it, there will be no PowerPoints. There will be no note taking. There will be no. You're talking to us. It's interactive.
Yes.
We're gonna be talking to each other. Is that true?
That's right. If I have to do a PowerPoint, just shoot me. No, don't shoot me.
So not like a lecture, but we're really gonna travel these concepts with you. The way you're talking to us now.
The way we're talking right now, sharing stories of what we've lived. And for those who are seekers, who want to go deeper into their own spiritual nature, their own emotional nature, their physical health and well-being, it's all connected. You know, and that's the thing, everything is connected. And I just want us to understand how connected, how important it is, how important we are to not just the people we know, but to the planet and everything that's on it that we live among.
Okay, so
part of that.
Jana, we're going to run out of time, but people are getting really excited about this workshop. So I got to do a little detail. Okay. I don't have the thing with me, but I'm going to put into the chat here. Just go to YogaUOnline.com. Look on the right-hand side for a beautiful picture. Show us your picture, Jana. You're like,
oh, am I supposed to do that? Am I supposed to?
Yeah, do it now. Like, do your portrait that's on our website. Like,
Oh, I think I'm kind of like,
look for her.
I don't know if I.
Look for Jana's beautiful face on the right-hand side, her big fat smile, and just click on that. You'll get all the information you need, but go today because the workshop is next weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
11 a.m.
11 to 1 Eastern time. And we're going to have some fun. Or is it just going to be totally serious? Or are you going to like?
That's impossible. I'm going to be me. And sometimes I'm serious and sometimes I'm not. I just let it channel into through the Sahasrara and down, and whatever comes in, I'm willing to, it comes out my mouth.
Well, I can't wait. And I hope you'll all join us because it sounds like it's going to be super fun. Jana, this was so fun. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Hey, can I put in the chat? It's Black Yoga Teacher.
Black Yoga Teachers Alliance.org is the website.
.org. 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you. I just got a correction.
Oh, it's 11:30.
11:30. When you said that, I was wondering, but it's 11:30.
11:30.
Okay. So again, Jan, I can't wait for next weekend, and we'll see you there. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take care.